life expectancy of I looked up the life expectancy of a person born in 1935 like me, and it was 62 years. So I'm happy to be here.
It's good to defy the odds sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And if you stop and think back at all the things you've done in your life, it's a miracle that you're here. Even hopping freight trains could be dangerous.
Oh, you don't know anybody that ever hopped a freight train, though?
I know some guys who have, yes.
Is that right?
And can you all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you,
Yeah.
Tim.
Okay, as I recall from the story, when you hop the freight train and it buzzed through English, you didn't want to hop off. And my question is this: once you got to Huntingburg, what did you have to do? Hitchhike to get back to English or what?
A good deal of walking, and we did have one ride. I don't recall how long that was, but we did have one guy who cautiously picked us up. Of course, we were muddy and white uniforms and mud up to halfway up to your knees. That's not a good appearance.
Oh, so you guys were in uniform at the time.
Oh, white uniforms. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, dope then. So, yeah, after being in that boxcar, I guess you would. So, but you picked it up. You picked it up in New Albany, I think, from the story that I see. That's one of the stories I picked to include in the article.
The story varies by time of day and the spoke, but it was a long night. I know that.
Well, don't. I have also added a caveat. It depends on who's telling the story as to how this event occurred. But anyway, some like to exaggerate and some don't. So,
well, Ron Kissel likes to say that he wasn't on the train, but he didn't realize two of us guys almost threw him off the train.
why did you throw him off? Oh, because he wouldn't jump.
Oh, he wouldn't jump. It slowed down after it got through English, and we got out west of town. But I was willing to jump, but Ron wouldn't jump.
Well, I see. You're gonna blame somebody that's not on here, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
Oh, of course, of course. Yes, that was an interesting story, and the other one was that I thought was kind of interesting. Is Vic on here or not?
I don't see Vic yet.
You don't see him?
No.
But another one, your stories that you were telling about was I couldn't tell who was the one that I guess couldn't get a ride and ended up sleeping in the fire station in the fire truck. Who was that?
Some guy named Gordon.
I thought so. Because I was listening to the voice and I couldn't tell whose lips were moving in the recording. So that's who I thought it was.
It was after basketball practice, and I was not looking forward to a 5-mile walk to Grantsburg. And that open fire truck with a nice leather seat just looked comfortable. It was okay.
And you slept, huh?
Yeah.
That's what I thought it said. I thought that was interesting. Another story that I recorded or that I put in the article was about the like I said, the fire truck, and also the other one that I put in there was the fact that nobody knew where the keys to their houses were because of the fact you could all walk in, and that's how I guess John got put in on the couch, and of course he couldn't remember what happened. But I thought, and then another story was about when what I call the Railroad Cafe. I think you guys called it the Honky Tonk, or it had another name.
The Honky Tonk down by the depot, yes.
Well, I think there was another name, but anyway, Landis owned it at the time, and it caught fire. And of course, then the story ended with everybody, those that were there, firefighters decided to imbibe because, of course, no electricity, and the beer was going to get cold, so or get warm, so it had to be drunk, you know. So anyhow, not being a drinker, I was amused with that part. So now is
Yeah,
John still on here?
the story I heard was that instead of getting beer from the tap and throwing it on the fire, sometimes they would stop and drink a little bit.
Right. Ah. I'll add that as a note. So anyway, those are ones that I've already done. Of course, Vic has a lot about the courthouse, and you know, since he's involved in that sort of stuff. But you know, so yeah, I'm almost done with it. So certainly, I'm hoping that you guys will be tickled to death to go on ahead and see the results, and also give me some feedback, because I certainly, you know, I haven't sent it to Jeremy yet. I've sent some of it. But you know, whatever doesn't get published, I certainly, if any of it gets published, you may all said, okay, forget it. But and I also hope to hear from you guys concerning your feelings about the experience that you've had over the last 3 years, where you've been on this Zoom every month, and you all have, you know, like I say, you've been on there religiously, and so, and then when Bob Roberts got on there, why, you know, that was another new twist to the thing. So
I do think you should carefully think about whether the statute of limitations has run before you print anything.
that's why I'm asking you guys to read it, because if there's anything there that you feel like, and there shouldn't be, but because anything that I've written up is only the stuff that you said, and it's online anyway on Facebook, so everybody knows. Oh, that was a joke, one of her jokes. You guys, not a word from any of you. I thought I was going to laugh. How is she? I haven't heard from her at all. Does anybody know?
I didn't
Do
follow.
silence.
I'm sorry. What?
Della.
Oh,
Della.
yeah. What about her?
I don't. How is she? Is she?
Oh,
I haven't seen her on.
She passed away.
Oh my goodness!
She
When?
did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she did. I went to the funeral.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Where's she buried?
I didn't go to the cemetery, but it's someplace around Salem somewhere.
Oh, so that is this recent or?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know you. I like you say, I'm in and out on this thing, and so. But today I happen to have a good thing there, but I'm sorry to hear about that. But at least she seemed to be in pretty good spirits. Do you know anything? Was she still able to visit
Well,
stuff?
I can tell you that the last thing she said to me on the telephone when she called to tell me that she'd been to the doctor, she had had a scope of the lungs, and she was a heavy smoker, and the doctor told her at that time it's only a matter of time, and she told me that she was prepared for that and she understood it, and the last words she said to me were, pray for me, I love you. And I think that was meant for all you guys too.
I bet it was.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I expected it, so I'm not too surprised.
Well, her daughter told me that for the final week of her life, she was probably in a 2-day period awake a half hour. So she was apparently on good pain medication and slept most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually what has been happening with the people that we've been dealing with here, especially with my wife's relatives. I mean, it was just a few weeks after they found out, and they knew that, if they went through cancer treatments and everything, they would not, they might get a little bit longer, but they didn't want to go through the pain. And so, like you say, it was heavily medicated. It was quiet. It was peaceful, and I couldn't have. It's like, I hope when my time comes, I'll be in that same boat. But
Well, there's nothing
whether I-
wrong with nothing wrong with a good morphine drip in that case.
Right. I don't know whether I've told you guys, but my
one
wife,
thing I have noticed
right.
on this, you guys, is somebody else talking, or my
John
John's talking?
was speaking. Yeah.
I don't remember whether I told you guys that Anne passed away in May.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And I feel for you, John. I know the feeling.
Yeah. Well, Leslie, our daughter, was taking good care of me.
Well, the world is still turning, John.
Yep, and it will continue,
That's right.
with or without humans.
Mhm.
John, you still coming to Indiana for the eclipse?
I'm still planning to be, yeah.
Okay. I might say that I got my driver's license renewed this week for 5 years. I said, you're awful optimistic.
5 years. They wouldn't renew mine for 5 years. 2 years at a time. And when Ann died, we had to do some tricks with credit cards and stuff. So I had ended up canceling a bunch and then applying for new ones. And they wouldn't give me any credit. I got 2 cards. One's got a credit value of $2,000 and one's $500.
My gosh.
I guess they don't want a 90-year-old to get in too deep.
Well, you probably hadn't borrowed enough money in the past. That's your
Should.
problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's in both of our names. Oh, well. I'll just pay cash for everything.
It's probably a good thing to do anyway. I use cash quite a lot. I use credit cards too, but I think we need to keep the cash in motion. I'm sorry that Vic and Bob didn't get on here.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Vic for a while. Is he doing okay?
Yeah, I think he's doing quite well. Yeah.
How about Bob?
I think Bob's okay. I once in a while we email, and I think he's doing fine. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah,
I
really.
This is Jeremy, the voice of God. I've just been on the phone with Bob trying to troubleshoot him getting on the Zoom, and he's given up for this month. So
Oh, gee.
that's what I've been up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
paused for a minute to look at my driver's license after you guys started that conversation, and I just recently managed to pass an actual hands-on driving test, and my license is good for another 5 years here in California. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll need another one after that or not, but we'll see.
Well, I just got through with an hour with the other Zoom, with the Flanigan Zoom. And so I'm getting hungry. It's time to eat. What time is it? It's 12:20. So I think I'll leave you guys and look forward to seeing you in next month.
See you next time, John.
Take
See
care.
ya, Uncle John.
Take care.
Take care and keep smiling, John.
No problem.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
You know, your story about hitchhiking back from Huntingburg did me of one time. I got my car stuck outside New Albany at night, and I had to hitchhike back in to get in. And some guy that picked me up that was a itinerant preacher, and he went roaring right over the tops of passing cars, right over the tops of hills with no visibility at all. And he just said, "God will watch out for me." And I was happy that it was not a very long ride.
Yeah. That reminds me that some of my siblings told me that when Dad was reaching a certain age, that maybe somebody should be talking about having his license revoked, and they said the way he zigs and zags. I said, well, the other guys do too, so maybe he'll keep zigging when they zag, and he'll be okay. Dad was not a bad driver, but some of the kids worried about him.
I have two first cousins, 98 and 95. As far as I know, they're still driving. They live in Indiana near Evansville.
Well, if I'm down that way, I'll watch out for them then.
Yeah, right.
Well, one lives in a senior citizens place at the edge of Evansville. The other one lives in Richland. You know where Richland's at?
I've been there, been a while. Yeah. I've been to about every town in Indiana, I think. And a lot in Michigan. When I was with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, I was supervisory agent for all the savings and loans in Indiana and Michigan. So I did a lot of traveling. There are a lot of interesting little towns in Indiana. I always like the names of like Florida, Cuba, and names like that.
Buena Vista.
Yeah, and you can't say Galveston, it's Galveston. You know, we don't use the old way of speaking.
Yeah, I told this French guy about Versailles, Kentucky, one time, and he was astonished.
Yeah, I thought of that a lot when we were actually in Versailles. I'm glad we did some traveling when Marion was able to enjoy it.
Yeah, good.
This past Wednesday, I saw a play. It was just a reading. It wasn't staged or anything like that. And there was a reference in it made to Versailles, Kentucky, and I just kind of chuckled in my head, thinking that's not how they say it there.
Yeah.
I was born in West Fork. You know where West Fork's at?
Oh yeah, sure. And Uniontown and a lot of little towns.
Yeah. Why?
You know, I was.
It was of course I graduated from Gordon High School. I worked with a fellow that retired from the post office. He said that at Harrison County had 64 post offices at one time.
Oh my gosh.
I think there's
Well, at one
five
time,
now.
people didn't all have cars, so they needed the post office somewhere around.
Close by.
They could be served from it.
Well, of course, they had a lot of RFD as well. So
Well, Westfork had a post office, and it was in part of the grocery store, the only grocery store in town.
Grantsburg had a post office that was originally in the store down on Highway 37, but then Kate Sarles lived in the center of town across from the old store, and her mother, the last name Ferguson, was the postmistress, and she built a little room onto the house, and that was the post office. And that is where she died, and I helped two old men carry her out of there as she was dying. But that little room was the post office.
Is that any relation to Ronnie Ferguson?
I'm not sure. I don't know Ronnie Ferguson. There was a junior Ferguson, his sister Peggy lived in Grantsburg. But this lady's name was Laura Ferguson, and many years prior to her death, she and her husband owned that big store in the center of town. And she told me so much about that town, and she was one of my good old friends. She was in her 70s. I was 15 at the time that she died, but Garrison Bird lived across the street from us, and he was a Spanish-American War veteran. So he also died in a house fire. Two of my good friends.
Ron Ferguson was the varsity basketball coach at Crawford County, and he's inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and he just passed away this past summer. Ronnie and Verna Lee, both. That
was like only 11 days apart, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny because Ronnie's son Kevin is the dad of, well, whatever. I don't need to get into the distant cousins and all of that. But Bob, I was going to say you, I think not only knew, but I think somehow in your lineage, you're somehow related to the Goldmans in West Fork. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Well, my mother was a Goldman.
Yeah. So my grandmother's sister, Sue Schultz, married Buzo Goldman, Wayne Goldman.
Yeah, okay.
And he passed away a couple months ago as well.
I think one of the things I remember about Ron Ferguson was, he was coach at Milltown for several years. And he was upset a game one time, and he took off his coat and threw it on the floor, and he had loose change in the pockets and all come out of the floor.
It can get you some kind of a demerit or something, can't you?
Yeah.
He coined
almost like
a new phrase.
Yeah, it's almost like Bob Knight throwing the chair across the floor.
Yeah, right.
I would think he probably coined a new phrase when he did that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I remember about Ron, he said one year they had a good team, and he based the game plan on who the referees were, which I thought was unusual.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bobby Knight. If you all covered anything while I was talking with Bob Roberts, just tell me to shut up. But Bobby Knight, of course, just recently passed.
Yeah.
I'm interjecting all of the all of the upbeat deaths.
Right. Well, we do a lot of that in this forum.
Well, it was interesting the number of people who had mostly good things to say about Bobby Knight, but once in a while, somebody just couldn't resist playing a video of him explaining what he wanted to have happen after he passed. And it was a little comical. But say what you will, he was a heck of a coach, and he did a lot of good things for a lot of guys. He made sure that they understood that they wouldn't always be playing basketball, and they needed to plan their lives accordingly. And so he was outspoken, but he was a good coach.
He had a basketball player that had a bad car accident between the junior and senior year and left him in a wheelchair. He raised a large sum of money for him.
Yes, and he even left a fishing trip that he was on to come back and take care of that. Unusual.
What was that guy's name? Landon something.
Turner.
Right?
Turner. Landon Turner.
Okay.
Just after curiosity, has there ever been any more floods in English about the ones that the epic two that caused the town to move up on the hill? Has the lower town flooded since that time?
I'm not sure about that. Apparently, with the golf course being where it is, we would have heard something about it. There'd been very much flooding, but I don't know. I clearly remember when Jackie Way used to come into town. He lived west of town someplace, but he would sometimes have to wade waist deep water to get out to go back home. I haven't heard of anything like that in recent years, though.
You know, when I was a kid, there was a almost flood, and the water got up to. I looked out our back door to our house in English there, and it was about a half an inch away from coming into the house. And I think I was worried about it. My dad didn't seem to be. I guess he just had a fatalistic view. Nothing you can do about it anyway. But
it finally got into the house when he was in
it. Oh,
it.
absolutely. I know.
That was a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
As I understand it, he was standing on the cabinets to keep his head out of the water.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I think he was sitting on the cabinet, and he said he was watching his refrigerator float around the room.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I came back there and tried to help him get reorganized, and people were so helpful. That is the nice thing about a small town.
That's true.
For that matter, I know they built this huge flood wall around New Albany and Jeff after the '37 flood, and I can't recall in my living around there that ever being actually used. I guess it has been used sometime or the other, but I mean, you know, they put the doors down to hold the water out if they wanted to.
Have you been back to that area at all now?
Or New Albany or English?
Right, and New Albany in recent years.
Not too much. I saw there's some little park there in Jeffersonville down by the river or something like that. And the whole riverfront, of course, in Louisville's, it used to be a crummy, and New Albany too, used to be a crummy place. And now it's sort of upscale Riverview and all that, you know.
Well, Vic and I walked across that pedestrian bridge that used to be a traffic bridge, but we walked across the river to Louisville and back, and Dell was waiting for us in a restaurant there. And that was nice. It's a good pedestrian bridge. If they could slow the bicycles down a little bit, it would help. But
okay, that's the old K&I bridge.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice.
Yeah, it dumped into what was then not the best area in town in Louisville, but anyway.
But Vic and I attended the high school reunion on September 30th, and That was an amazing room. They have a community room there in New English, and a very nice room and a good crowd. It was really a good reunion. Vic and I were the only ones, of course, attending from the class of 52, and Della was alive at that time, but unable to go to the reunion. But it was very well done, and I saw some people there I had not seen for many years. It was a good day.
Good. Many of you are left of the class of 52. I can't honestly remember every single person, even though it was such a small class.
Yeah, well, it was Buck McMail, Ron Denbo,
Oh, yes, yes.
Don Conrad, Ruth Gilmore, Mary Lou Kemp, and then the three officers were at the top of the page. And that was Della, Vic, well, Della, me, and Vic. But the class was so small that the pictures were the three officers at the top, and then one on each side of the middle of the page, three at the bottom. And they died left to right from the bottom, McMail, and then 1, 2, 3, and then the middle, one on each side. I was to be next, and Della jumped in ahead of me. So there's the two of us left. Vic and I are the only ones. We used to joke that the enlisted personnel didn't do as well as the officers.
Okay, yeah. I happened to be there I used to spend my one weekend a month in English, even when I was in high school in New Albany. I happened to be there when you guys did your class play. And I noticed you found a play for every single person in the senior class.
Yeah, we did.
Very, very incredible.
It was not a very good play, but we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started with 29 in the freshman year. And that was back when they were typically graduating 35 or so. But we started with 29, then some left with the military and for other reasons moved away or whatever. And so we ended with 8 in the graduating class.
Yeah, I was been
class, even in the town at the time. Of course, I mean, the high school grew from wider areas like yours in Grantsburg, but still.
I was in the class of 53. They was started out with 45, and there was only 28 graduated. And 2 of us graduated from other high schools. A Murphy girl someplace in Illinois, and I graduated in Corydon.
Okay, I got to go, guys. I think we're about done anyway.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're about
See you
done.
next time.
yeah.
Take care.
Take care, everyone.
We got a minute, just a little over a minute left. Jeremy, where are you at?
Massachusetts, Cape Cod.
Oh, Cape Cod, okay.
Yes, sir. Not as far as my Uncle John in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it looks like Tim's trying to connect again, but yeah, we're under a minute. Tim, we're in the final few seconds before Zoom cuts us off.
Y'all take care.
All right, you too.
See you next month.
Bye, Bob.
Bye.